Hey everyone, welcome back to the second episode of Mustang Garage. Today we're going to be finally getting rid of this roof. It's the last remaining holdout that's had paint on it since I got the car. The cowl here I'm not going to worry about because I'm going to probably replace that this winter, but finally getting epoxy primer on everything. Sanded 2 coats of paint off of here. There was red paint, followed by blue paint, followed by the original color. So I decided to stop where I was to offer a little tribute to the Linesville Lions. This beautiful orange and black combination. So let's get to it. So if you're going to restore your car and you're going to do it right, this is what you want. You want to get it down to the bare metal. And when they painted these cars back in the 60s, their available paints and primers and whatnot were not as good as the paints and primers of today. Especially this black that you see all over the car so far. This is epoxy primer, and like I said, there's other ways of painting your car. You could just scuff the paint job that's on there now and go ahead and shoot right on top of it, do body work on top of it. But you're going to be chasing low spots from the different paint levels over the years. The best way to do it is to get it down to bare metal. And now this epoxy primer, you can see I've done the whole car. Let me switch to wide angle. Done the whole car except for the roof. And this stuff is, well, it's epoxy. And this is going to protect the metal of this car for forever. So if you're just planning on flipping a car or just making yourself a cool Sunday beater to ride around in, go ahead and paint over top of paint. But I expect to keep this car for a long, long time. And I want it done right. So today, like I said, we're going to get the rest of this orange off the roof. This door is aftermarket, as well as the rear quarter panel. So these come coated with an EPDM primer, I think it's called, electric plated blah 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 primer. And it's a good coating, but still, I'm going to go ahead and just scuff this down a little bit so the adhesive primer will latch onto it, and we'll get the car all black. It's a nice overcast day outside. Finally, it's not in the triple digits, so I'm going to do this outside. All right, I'm using an orbital sander with 60 grit paper on it right now. It's doing a pretty good job tearing through this orange paint. I'm trying to do this quick and get the car back in the garage because I know this thing is obnoxious as hell and probably annoying the neighbors by now. Okay, now that I got just about all of the paint and primer off, again, I used 60 and 80 grit on that rotary sander to really dig through the paint and the primer. Once I got almost all of it off, I switched to DA sander here with 80 grit on it. I got the metal just about cleaned up as good as it's going to get. I'm going to switch over to 240 and do a final sanding on here to get the metal prepped for shooting the epoxy primer. It's looking pretty good. There's a couple low spots where there's some dents that are going to need to be repaired, but roof's looking really good. I'm just going to keep it out here a little while longer. I'm going to have to go inside, get a wire wheel to get this drip channel finished, cleaned out, these couple low spots like that. But overall, real happy with how it turned out, and I'm gonna finish getting that little bit stripped out of the drip channel and get her rolled back inside and cleaned up, and get her masked up and ready to put some primer on it. All right, welcome back to day 2 of episode 2. Getting ready to shoot primer on the last unprimered parts of the car. Got the roof is all sanded down real nice, down to bare metal. And as I said yesterday, this panel here was covered in EPDM primer, I believe it's called. But we're going to hit it with epoxy to give it a final good seal coat, as well as the door. It was also a new panel. I'm going to start by going around and scuffing this EPDM primer with some 1000 grit, just to give the epoxy something to grab onto. I'm going to do the tops of the rear quarters, and I'm going to sand out that little seam right there. And plan on doing this outside, but it's a little rainy out today. It's not a big deal because the epoxy primer is so heavy it doesn't go flying everywhere. But let me go ahead and hit this with some 1000 grit. Get it ready to take some primer, and then we'll start talking about paint guns. I did have to drop down to 400 to make that seam disappear between those two different primed areas. I know you can still see it, but you can't feel it. So one of the key things about painting, if you're going to paint your own car, is touch every surface. If you can feel it, you're going to see it in the paint. Everything needs to feel like glass all over. That quick knockdown with the 1000 grit took maybe 10 minutes to do all of this. And like I said, you want the surface every time you do it, whether you're spraying the epoxy primer, the next step being filler primer, which is almost like Bondo in a spray gun. You're going to fill in all the little tiny scratches and everything with it. You want to sand that till it's like glass, and only then are you ready to lay the paint, because you will see any imperfection unless you don't. Unless you do get everything sanded smooth. And yeah, I know I'm not going to take the door handle off or that trim piece. This is just laying epoxy primer. It's to coat bare metal, but for right now I just wanted to give it the car a complete uniform look. Plus I wanted to cover up that EPDM primer on these panels, so those couple trim pieces aren't going to make any difference. After you sand, one of the first things you want to do is just wipe everything down. They actually make a specific rag called a tack rag for doing this. I don't know, I guess maybe it has some sort of particle sticking properties to it. I don't know, to help get the paint dust off of the paint. But once we're done doing that, we're going to go back over it with a wax and oil remover. They'll remove anything from the paint. It'll keep the paint from sticking. I'll worry about a real tack rag when I actually go to spray real paint, but for right now this is just primer. So I'm going to go ahead and finish wiping everything down, and I'll wipe it down with degreaser and finish masking up this window, and then let's shoot some primer. All right, so before I shoot this primer, I got to thinking while I was sanding. If you guys are like me and you're new at this, and you'd like to restore a car, you're going to ask yourself, all right, what do I even buy? What am I supposed to use to paint? And kind of parallel to that question, some of you are going, Brian, why are you painting your car in sections the way you are? Okay, it's because I have no idea what the hell I'm doing either. All I did was I watched a bunch of YouTube videos, and you're going to do that too, and you're going to tell yourself, there's no way I can do this, because every single YouTube video has got 2,000 comments underneath it of painters telling the guy painting that he's an idiot and he's doing it all wrong. Okay, I'm just going to show you what I'm doing, and it's working great so far. I've been doing small piece by small piece just because I'm learning and I'm getting better as I go along. And primer, epoxy primer, is the easiest one of them to shoot at all, which is why I'm telling you, strip your car to bare metal. Put the epoxy primer on it. It'll protect your metal forever. It'll give you a nice, level, smooth surface to start with your work. And it just gets easier from there. All you got to do is make sure each layer feels like glass before you paint it. The metal, put the epoxy primer on it. Sand the epoxy primer lightly once it's completely hardened until it feels like glass. Then shoot your filler primer on top of it. And the filler primer, like I said, it's a lot like Bondo in a can that you can spray. It just puts a thin film of Bondo over top of everything, and then from there you're going to block sand that till it feels like glass, and then you're going to shoot paint on top of it, and then you're going to shoot clear coat on top of the paint, and then you're going to block sand the paint until it looks like glass, or excuse me, block sand the clear coat until it looks like glass. This is not that hard. It's not rocket science. I know everyone on the internet makes it look like it's so difficult to do. It's difficult to get a perfect job, but if you take your time, it'll look perfect. The biggest thing, any painter will tell you, 99% of the work is prepping the car before you spray anything on it. Okay, so let's look at some of the stuff that I'm talking about. Number one, paint sprayer. You're gonna talk to your cousin who's a professional painter and his paint gun costs $299 and it lays like glass, and it's the only one you should ever use. This one here is from eBay. I'm sorry, not eBay, Amazon, 40 bucks. NACO is the name of it. This thing has worked fine for me so far. It shot paint fine, it shot epoxy primer fine. It did not shoot the primer filler, the gray primer that you can sand. And the problem is, if you look at the tip here, you'll see this has a tip size of 1.5. And like I said, this worked great for the epoxy primer and the paint. It's too small to shoot all the solids that are in the primer. So I ended up buying a second gun just like this with a 2.0 nozzle on it. Just look on eBay. You can find some of these things that it's a gun that comes with different size nozzles you can put on it. Okay. Sorry, trying to do this without a tripod. Some people are going to be intimidated by the gun. I'm here to tell you there's nothing to it. I set it up the way I saw one YouTuber, and it works great. Okay, your controls on here. There's a knob down. Oops. There's a knob down here that controls how much air pressure is getting to the gun. Okay, and what they recommend on this video, open that sucker wide open, and then put yourself a pressure regulator on here on the bottom, because you can set your pressure exactly where you want it with this. For shooting the epoxy primer and the paint, I set that between 15 and 20 psi right there on the gauge, and that's it. So that's all this knob does. So that takes care of this knob and this knob. That only leaves you with these two. Open them wide open. This is according to guys that I followed on the internet. And then let's see, I think I don't even know. You'll figure it out when you go to spray it. One of these knobs controls the size of your pattern that's coming out, and the other one controls the amount of paint that's coming out in the pattern. That you're going to figure out over time. That's why I'm saying start with the epoxy primer and play with it a little bit till you find a fan size that works good and an amount of paint coming out that works good. Too much paint and you can get runs. Too little paint and you wind up with orange peel, like I was talking about before. Now, orange peel, the surface of the paint, it just looks like the surface of an orange, and the problem when it dries, and the problem is because the paint began drying before it even hit the car, because you just did not have enough paint volume coming out. So when you shoot your first color or your first prime or whatever, and you see that you have that problem, use more paint the next time. Your pattern, you want a nice sized vertical oval, and whether you want a vertical oval or horizontal is controlled with the tip. And don't be like me, and first time you spray, you figure, oh, horizontal is horizontal, vertical is vertical. No, it's actually, it comes out the opposite. This tip being in the horizontal position right now sprays a vertical football size pattern. When you spray, you want to do overlapping patterns so that you got your dense part of your circle that's really laying down heavy paint. And then up here at the tip and at the bottom, you're going to notice that it sort of fades out a little bit. It's not as thick. When you make your next pass across, you want to lay that thin part of your upper spray over top of the thin part of the previous lower spray, and then make passes back and forth and try and get nice, even coverage. Again, the only way to figure that out is experience, and do it like I'm doing it. Start one piece at a time, get the whole car in primer first, and you'll learn where those points are. Okay, do not be afraid of this gun. It is the exact same thing as a spray can. You just have to set the gun up so that it works like a spray can, and it's really not that difficult. Next thing, safety. Yes, I am 100% from the John Beagle school of, I sprayed plenty of stuff and I have been fine my whole life. Yeah, okay, and that might have been the case back with chemicals back in the 60s and 70s. This new stuff, you've got to take care of your lungs when you spray it. Actually, you need to take care of your skin and your eyes too when you spray it. If I'm doing when I go to do the full spray on this car, and there's going to be a lot of fumes in here, I'm going to have on a full body suit and the whole deal in addition to the mask. It's just not worth it. These paints and primers, they have substances in them called VOCs. And the VOC is volatile organic compounds. Your body cannot absorb too many of these, or you will die and get cancer. I'm certain that if I worked in an auto body shop and never used any protective gear, I would definitely get cancer. Spraying a car, a one-time thing, I don't think it's going to kill you. Well, life's going to kill you. Everything's going to kill you. You're all going to die eventually, but I don't think the paint's going to do it. But still, just to be safe, get yourself a good mask and a good respirator, and get a paint suit to wear too. Not only does it protect your skin, keeps any dust that's on your clothing or a piece of fuzz or whatever. If it lands in the paint, it'll stick out like a sore thumb, and it makes your paint job look ugly. Okay, for a mask, I got this one on Amazon. I think it was, geez, I don't know, it was under 30 bucks. I want to say it was like $19. As I said, those paints and primers, they shoot volatile organic compounds. So when you get a mask, make sure the filters it comes with protect you from organic vapors. That's the only thing that's going to keep that stuff out of your lungs. And I originally had a non-face shield version, but you know, the more I read and the more I'm learning about this, I mean, these fumes can even get into your eyes if you're not wearing, not even just to irritate them, but absorb into your bloodstream through your eyes. So wear a full face mask. The chemicals I've been using so far, Eastwood products, have all been working great. Their website is awesome. Their training videos are awesome. Again, so this would be the part in every episode where sponsors Eastwood use Eastwood products. Now, that would be great if Eastwood sent me a couple gallons of paint to paint the car, because, you know, this is free advertising for them. Because you know, I'm going to be a huge content creator, and people are going to be looking at me for the answers. Like, what do I buy? I don't never done this before. Who should I buy from? And I'm telling you, Eastwood products. I've found that they're the best. I could be wrong, but so far they're the best. and you should buy Eastwood products. Okay, for epoxy primer, it's simple. It's a 1-to-1 ratio of the actual primer to the activator. I'm going to go ahead and put the primer in this cup and get it started. And before I open that activator, I'm going to go ahead and put the mask on, because it just it smells pretty bad. And so clearly that's probably got to be the worst stuff you shouldn't be inhaling. So all you do is you look at these cups. I got these on Amazon, dirt cheap. You can get like 20 of them for 10 bucks. Look for the ratio marked 1-to-1 on the side here. If you fill the left side up to a number with your primer, you fill the right side of the column up with your reducers. All right, folks, that's all the time we have left for today on Mustang Garage. I was going to show you some paint spray gun setup techniques, but my gun wasn't playing very happy today. Still got the job done. We got all the metal covered in epoxy primer. It's got a little bit of a gloss to it right now, but it'll dry relatively flat. And if not, I'm gonna sand everything at about 3,000 grit just to make it look the same all over the car. Every day here on the Mustang Garage is going to be a learning experience. Learn some things today with regards to the paint gun. Also learned a couple things about epoxy primer. So we're going to cover that in the next episode. Till now, I'm happy. I've got all of the sheet metal on the car is now covered in epoxy primer, and there ain't gonna be no more rust for a long time on this little lady. Till next time, see you.